My name is Kabiru Ademo. I'm the local coordinator for the Seeds for Change program. We're based here in Kano, and our program is aimed at developing the horticultural sector. We are working with some of the Dutch private sector companies and the Dutch government. This is a fourth edition of the Seed Platform meeting that we have. We are hosting this today with our partners from 2Scale. So I have Mr. Emmanuel Olalekon here on board, and I think he will introduce himself and his project, and then we can proceed to listen to some of our panelists and speakers today. So, Mr. Emmanuel.
Thank you so much, Kabir, for that brief introduction. I'm excited to be here to be in this maiden edition of the webinar. Actually, we have been having this meeting physically, but this is the first webinar due to what is obvious that everyone is aware of COVID-19. So I represent 2Scale. I actually want to tell you about the 2Scale. What does 2Scale stand for? So to do that, I have something to share, a presentation to share. So just to give you a brief overview of 2Scale, my name is Olalekon Emmanuel Akinwekomi. I'm the Horticultural Partnership Facilitator for 2Scale program. So what is 2Scale? 2Scale actually stands it's an acronym of towards sustainable business cluster development through learning entrepreneurship. And 2Scale program is actually aimed at incubating and accelerating inclusive agribusiness development in Africa. And the program covers 9 African countries, 3 in East Africa and 6 in West Africa. In East Africa, we have South Sudan, we have Ethiopia and Kenya. While for West Africa, 2Scale has presence in Mali, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Niger, Ghana, and of course, Nigeria. So it's actually a 150 million euro funded program. It's actually a PPP, public-private partnership program. And the public here is the Dutch government through the Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And they are funding the program to the tune of 50 million euro that will last between 2019 and 2023. We actually started the program last year. While the second batch of funding is actually coming from the private sector. The private companies that we work with are funding as well to the tune of 50 million euro. While the third tranche, which is 50 million euro as well, is actually from private financial institution through equity financing or credit financing. So with this funding from the 2Scale, we actually focus on giving technical assistance to partner. And more importantly, what we emphasize in our presentation that there is no subsidy. We don't give subsidy. So we work in partnership. Our partnership term of inclusion, we work with small other producers, farmers, while we have the SME at the center, which are actually the driver of the partnership to actually reach the consumer, which are majorly the bottom of the pyramid.
Okay, thanks a lot, Emmanuel. That's a very detailed introduction. And so yeah, as he's mentioned, the partnership between Seeds for Change and 2Scale. 2Scale will offer the market linkage, while Seeds for Change, being a Dutch-based project in Nigeria, is mainly focused at primary production. So we do a lot of trialing to see good varieties that will perform well in the Nigerian context. We do demonstrations for the farmers to be able to practicalize some of the good agronomic practices to make their vegetables a lot better, higher yield and better production. And we also do a lot of capacity building, both for the grassroots farmers and for stakeholders in the horticultural sectors. We do that via training, seed platform meetings like this one, and also training extension agents that will make us have better farmers in the sector generally. But that being said, horticulture is a big area of partnership between the Dutch government and Nigeria, and it's just starting out. It's going to be a bigger collaboration coming in that sector in years to come. And so we believe that the horticultural sector needs to take the forefront now. So discussing that, we would like to introduce Mr. Richard Ogundele. Hello, Mohammed, you're sharing your screen. I would like to introduce Mr. Richard Ogundele, who is a seasoned professional in the agribusiness space of Nigeria. He's done a lot of work in horticulture. He's been heading a lot of projects regarding horticulture and vastly experienced to share some perspectives with us about policies and development in the sector. Mr. Richard, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this session. Thanks, Kabir. Thanks, Emmanuel. We have a very compact session. I have just 10 minutes. I will not be going through each slide in detail. I'm sure the organizers will circulate them afterwards. I will just pick the key areas to talk about, and then we'll move forward. I have a slide code, so I'm going to be as audible as I can. We were looking at this topic in 5 thematic areas. What's the Nigerian agriculture like? And what is horticulture itself? We have a case study. What policy and strategic development issues should we be focusing on? And then what should we conclude on and recommend that we pursue? Why is Nigerian agriculture so important? Well, very simple. We have a huge population, 200 million. They all need to be fed. And from that population, we have age 0 to 14, very large, about 44 or 43%. They need to be fed. Agri contributes 25% to GDP, and it is a sector that is really contributing to GDP amongst all the sectors in Nigeria. And then again, we have 37% of the labor force engaged by this same sector. So we should really talk about agriculture. Meanwhile, within that agriculture portfolio, we have crops, livestock, fisheries, and forestry. Crops taking 89%, and within that crops, we have horticulture. Horticulture is a big segment. It's actually a branch of plant agriculture dealing with garden crops, generally fruits, vegetables, and ornamental plants. So when we talk about horticulture, it's quite broad, but we're going to be focusing more on fruits and the vegetable side of things. And why is it important? For food security and nutrition, it's a very beautiful source of vitamins, nutrients, which everyone needs. Vitamin A deficiency is a problem globally and is one of the easy sources of getting vitamin A. Medicinal plants come from this horticulture sector. For environmental sustainability, it's important that we have a lot of these things going on. And it's a very easy way of creating jobs for people within the city. Now, more importantly, to tackle hunger, malnutrition, horticulture comes in handy. And when you think about rapid urbanization these days, the area of land available to farm is reducing. So what people can easily do around themselves is this horticulture. Meanwhile, from a global perspective, what is really driving agribusiness in most of the countries is fruits and vegetables. You can see that on our left side of the screen. Let's move forward. For simple categorization, these are just fruits, vegetables, spices, and medicinal plants. I'm sure we'll see all of this later. Something to just show us how it's developed and what does it look like, different places. Now, let's take tomato, which is part of the horticultural crops in Nigeria. We have a map here showing 5 states that fall within key tomato producing belt. And this graph shows us that the yield is very low compared to Africa yield averagely and the global yield averagely. So if in Nigeria we are still under 2 to 4 tons per hectare and the world is doing 37.6, Africa 16.5, we still have a long way to go. Now, we all know what tomato is. We produce just 1.8 million metric tons. Our demand is 2.3 million. We know that gap. And the problem here starts with the huge post-harvest loss of 45 to 50%. Where do we go from there? How do we begin to tackle these things? On a broader scale, Nigerian agricultural sector, competitiveness, we are very low. Poor agronomic techniques, our access to input is inadequate, and we have a high post-harvest loss. These all together lead us to reduce incomes, reduce food quality, and increase poverty. If you want to zero down clearly to the issues in that sector, we have pre-upstream, upstream, midstream, and the downstream. Now, access to inputs, quality, mechanization, those are the real crux of the matter. How do farmers get this thing? We still talk about it till today. Fertilizer application is still low, the yield per hectare is low, and the loss at the post-harvest stage is very high. For processing, we have a challenge. Power is there, access to road, water, credit, technology, and then the support services, transport, packaging, and the rest of them. The list goes on. But these are the areas that we really need to deal with to begin to talk about improvement in this sector coming from a strategic development point of view. What are the issues in this supply chain? Everything boils down to post-harvest management. Cold chain is absent at the point of origin, at the market, and the packaging material is just not it. Food safety and hygiene, you just cannot base anything on. That's why we can't have access to proper market. We can't have people saying we want Nigerian tomato. The site is just not right. Now, if we want to drill down clearly, what are the core issues here? From the processing, packaging, it all ends up at the cold chain side of things. Now, from production to consumption, we need to make sure that certain things are in place. How do you harvest? How do you handle? How do you package? How do you process? How do you store? How do you move it from the farm to the market? And how does the consumer ensure that what is getting is actually value for money? So we need solutions to reduce perishability and damage. Everything around fruits and vegetables are very perishable. So our logistics and infrastructure must be tight. And that is where Nigeria really suffers. Roads, power, water, stores for storage. We don't have cold chain. These are the things still challenging us. Cold chain doesn't work for only fruits and vegetables. It works for meat, fish, dairy, beverages, pharmaceuticals. So it's important that we put these things in place, not just for the horticultural sector, but for other sectors who can also benefit from this infrastructure. How much are we losing annually when we don't do these things? 198 billion is what we lose. And imagine if we had that and our farmers get at least 50% of this back into their pockets. That's a lot. Now, in terms of policy, strategic development, what should we be focusing on? It means if we want to develop this sector, we should be thinking towards more value addition and not just remain production oriented. At the moment, we're so production oriented in Nigeria that we are not even getting much benefit out of what we have. Huge arable land, but no value addition. So for horticulture sector, we should be thinking of the cleaning, sorting, grading, treatments, and that's basically putting standards in place to ensure that what comes out from the farm to the aggregation center to the primary end market meets quality requirements. Cold storage should be available, packaging should be available, and transportation, truck, ship, rail, we need to work on these things. If we put these things in place, this graph tells us that we'll be working towards economic development. Mind you, it's a way of creating jobs. We are improving food safety and hygiene, and we're adding value. Ultimately, the post-harvest orientation is what we should be aiming at. The current agricultural policy we're operating in Nigeria is the Agri Promotion Policy 2016 to 2020. That's what took over from the ATA, the Agri Transformation Agenda. Now, if you look at that policy, there are some major deficiencies in there, and we still feel we can review and do better. We need to stimulate domestic production of good quality inputs. We need to amend our current Land Use Act to better access to land for farmers. We need to develop processing and storage facilities, and we need to engage with the legislature to ensure that the minimum 10% allocation of the national budget at least goes to agriculture. In the last 8-10 years, we've been funding agriculture with just 2% of our national budget. That's not going to help us get anywhere. In terms of specific activities we can do within our power to actualize these 4 key areas, they are listed here. For time, let's just move forward. Now we need to begin to make use of public-private partnerships. Earlier on, Emmanuel talked about PPP. They have 9 partnerships in place. Across Nigeria, we have a lot of moribund facilities and infrastructure that are just there, government-owned. If we can allow the private sector access to these facilities, they will bring in their own funds, bring in their own expertise, technology, and then they can gradually integrate the smallholder farmers into their operation. And that way, these things become useful again. Leaving them there without any use just doesn't make any economic sense. We need to begin to think of how do we invest in these opportunities that are available. With the facilities here and there lying low, some might need to be replaced, some might need to be refurbished. These are opportunities to invest, but specifically, we need to build capacity across board. We need to bring in technology. We need to think of how do we begin to package tomato better? Do we continue to use raffia baskets? Not at all. If you're talking about plastic crates, how do you aggregate at the farm level? How do you move them in cold chain trucks? How do you create a system around that? It's a business that people need to look into. And now markets and cold chain service. Cold chain is a very big gap, which we don't have at the moment, and it's an investment opportunity here. If we go further, there's IT and there are high yield crops. I've already mentioned all these things. Now, for processors, the tomato sector experiencing 50% post-harvest loss is just a no-no. And what are those things that the processors are dealing with? There's a power issue. I know a factory up in Kano that spends at least 60 to 70% of its operating cost on power. It's crazy. They need black oil. Kaduna Refinery is a challenge to get it. Now, the raw materials for these processing plants, fresh tomatoes, is still a challenge. The farmers are not well equipped agronomically to produce. The seeds they use are still OPVs, not hybrids. And then the marketing of the tomato is just done ad hoc. We need to bring in systems into these things. For support the need, the borders are very porous. Thank God they are temporarily closed, but we can't leave them closed forever. So it means if you place a ban on importation of goods, the agents at the border who need to enforce these policies must be well educated and be willing to do that. If they don't do it, they kill that local backward integration plan which the government is trying to achieve, and then the entire system collapses. There's an issue of multiple taxation. They tax you at the community level, they tax you at the local government level, they tax you at the federal level, and yet they want you to employ people. How do you do all these things with this multiple taxation? It's a challenge. The environment is not so friendly credit-wise. The interest rate, double digit, how many people can survive on that? Any agribusiness interest beyond 5% is suicidal. Definitely, we need to work on that. And capacity building remains a key area that more needs to be done. Thank God, Seed for Change is there, and two skill, like what Mr. Emmanuel said, is available to support in these areas. Now, let's bring this thing to a close. If we are going to think of strategic developments that we need to do for the agricultural sector to move forward, from a short-term basis, we need to think of activities of implementation agencies to include post-harvest loss reduction and capacity building of value chain actors. We need to secure commitment of private sector and development organizations to contribute to the state strategy on post-harvest loss reduction. If it's not post-harvest loss reduction oriented, we'll still be talking theory, because that's where the major problem is right now. There's so much coming out of the farms, but we don't have a way of managing that, processing that, storing that, and distributing them. So it's a four-pronged issue. And for a short-term, immediate low-hanging fruit, this is what we need to deal with. And to get this right, we need to come up with gap certification for smallholder farmers, conduct training for government officials on post-harvest loss reduction strategies, tools and technologies, mapping across implementation agencies to recommend required tools for the efficient delivery of services. Existing templates and framework for data capturing, we need to review all those things. On a medium-term basis, We need to have an efficient agri supply chain, physical infrastructure and logistics equipment for smallholder farmers and aggregators, storage plants, transport from farm to aggregation centers, cold chain and everything. These things need to be there. It's annoying when the farmer grows his crops in the field and no road to bring them out. Simple cart availability is not there. So what do? They just leave those things there to rot away. And these days, you have an issue of security. They don't even want to get in there. On a long-term basis, all the agricultural policies we have, we need to review them. Most of them are actually bits and pieces. The CBN has been the one promulgating, or should I say, enacting most of the acts or laws which we are driving agriculture in Nigeria. And sometimes you wonder, our agri ministry at the federal level that should be playing this role is just left on the side. So how do we harmonize all the existing laws or acts or policies that we have into something meaningful that can really drive the sector? Each time we say private sector led, private sector driven, we need to understand what exists first. How do we filter through and ensure that what we need, then we can present this to the government to say, this is where we need your support. If we don't do that job for them, they won't come to it because they have so many other things to deal with. Now, what's the roadmap for improvement? What should it be like? The first thing is we need to improve post-harvest handling practices from the farm gate. Harvesting methods, transportation, sorting, grading, washing, we need to be guided. So these are the first things to do, and these will create jobs. Logistics, train, road, rail, air, we need to put these things in place. Now, our policy advocacy should be evidence-driven. Right now, Lagos State still remains the biggest market. And if the policy to ensure that fruits are properly handled, packaged, and delivered doesn't come from Lagos State, which is the market, then we will not be able to sustain the innovations already existing. We have plastic crate innovation on ground. We have aggregation center innovation on ground. We have the need for cold chain storage. It has been tested in Kano, it's there. We have tested real movement of fresh tomatoes. It shows that it is efficient if we have specialized carriages with cold chain facility to move the produce. And it is faster than when you think of the road with all the bad spots. Advocacy means we should engage local governments, state governments, and at the federal level. Now, if the federal level releases a policy, the state needs to domesticate it and not wait for the federal to come and implement these things. And finally, if we get all these ducks lined up in a row, we should be working towards food safety and hygiene.
Thank you, Mr. Richard, for that insightful presentation. A lot has been said. The challenges have been highlighted and some of the possible way out. And one of the key things that you mentioned, that Lagos is the biggest market in terms of horticulture, which we are all aware of. And let me quickly say this for all our participants. If you go down to your video screen, you will see a particular chat box Q&A. So for as many of us that have one question or the other, please kindly make use of the Q&A and let's put our question there. All the questions will be collated, and at the end of all the presentation, we will attend to your question.
Our next speaker that we would have wanted to share a bit of a short perspective with us is Mr. Ogunbodede. He is the CEO of Seedfort and the representative and distributor for Rise One, which is one of the partner companies of the Seed for Change program. They're Dutch vegetable breeders with some very good vegetable assortment. So, Mr. Dokun, please share some perspective with us, please.
Okay. Hello, Kabir. I will forgive you for the murdering of my name. It's okay. It reminds us of the diversity in the country, basically. No, it's okay. I will collect something from you after the whole program. Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Ogunbodede, like Kabir already introduced. And I am the CEO and founder of a company called Seedfort Agro, which is a vegetable inputs supply company. And we also happen to be the sole distributor of Rice One, which is a top 4 global vegetable seed company in Holland. The topic I'm trying to really just share my thoughts on today is planning horticultural production to align with the market. And this is very important, especially post COVID crisis. It's also good to tell you that we also have a sister company, which is into vegetable production. So I'm not going to share in perspective just as a seller. I'm going to be sharing also as a grower because we've been in commercial production of vegetables for a number of years. We all know what has been, I'm going to be looking at COVID-19 from the economic disruption that is caused and take it to see why the need more than ever to be able to align our production with the market. We know that economies have contracted basically because of the effect of the sit at home, and that is nothing peculiar to Nigeria. It's all over the world basically. But where it affects Nigeria much more than most other nations is the fact that the price of oil fell drastically. And as we know, 70% of government revenue in Nigeria, it comes from oil, and also 90% of FX, which is very critical for importation, also comes from oil. So really, Nigeria has been struggling to be able to meet its revenue and also its FX demand. And these have gross implications for businesses because manufacturers will struggle to bring imports in to produce, and also FX, as even actually Nigeria has lost its value for about 25% or 28% in the last 3 months due to this whole thing. So definitely that means almost everything that's been imported in the country, the price is going to increase. What does that do to the consumer? That means the consumer has less money to spend, basically. That's number one. We should have to keep that at the back of our mind as farmers. The second thing is this. People are losing their jobs. According to NBC statistics, about 42% of people have lost their jobs since COVID. That means people are getting poorer. Government doesn't have the funds, FX value, Nigeria has lost value, and because a lot of people have lost their revenue, source of revenue, that means that people are generally poorer. And for us as farmers, the cost of doing business is going to increase because many of our inputs too are imported, and the ones that are not imported, they still have elements that are imported. Because of this cost, because of this scarcity of FX and this devaluation, basically our cost is going to increase. So all these have implications. We should keep that in mind. Another thing is this. When people lose their jobs in this country, one of the things they do, and I've been getting calls ever since, people want to go into farming. They start telling you, start experiencing urban rural migration. People start moving from the city. When they struggle to find jobs, they want to go back to their villages. They feel, oh, worst case scenario, people must eat, which is one of the problems I see in agriculture. People always say people must eat, and people go back to farming. And people in the rural areas would have lost their jobs or thinking of problems. What they would do is that, oh, let me start farming by the side to augment my income. So what's going to happen is that there's going to be a lot of demand. And I think farmers should keep that in mind. A lot of farmers are going to join us. And what that means that where you have a lot of supply already, the supply is going to increase, and that will have implication on pricing. This tells us that if demand is going to reduce, purchasing power is, demand is going to reduce, purchasing power goes down, probably more supply, and our cost increases. It's very difficult to pass on this cost. And we have to think and know the implication of this as farmers. Things are going to get a little bit more dire as we are moving forward, and that's the reality. And we can't continue to wait for government. The reality is that government is getting poorer. We can see that our budgets, the federal government is getting a lot of funds to actually fund the budget. The state governments, many of them cannot even borrow anymore. So the support from agriculture that was not enough in the past, like mentioned by a previous speaker, is going to get more terrible because governments do not have money. So for us as farmers, we start thinking as business owners, as entrepreneurs. And two things I think we have to do, the solutions, after talking about all the problems, these two solutions. Number one is this. Farmers have to start thinking of increased productivity more than ever. Increased productivity is this. You've been growing your tomatoes and you've been doing 10 tons. And we all know that's been shared even in the past, that the productivity, when it comes to yield, we are one of the lowest in the world. How do we get our productivity? If you're getting 5 tons of tomatoes, how do I get to 25 or 50? If I get 25, how do you get it to 100? So those are the kind of things. And you have to start thinking about how do we increase productivity? And it's very important. And I can tell you very straightforward, one of the things you need to do is the quality of inputs have to come into play. What is the quality? It starts with the quality of seeds. You need to start thinking beyond cost and start thinking of value added. This thing is going to cost me more, but does it give me that incremental value that is going to make me more profitable? You need to start thinking as business owners, not as business, as entrepreneurs. We see a gap, and how do you make money from it? So even if price does not increase, or you can't increase your price because you have more to sell, definitely that means you can make more revenue at the end of the day. So that is one. And the second thing that we need to do as farmers is that it's useless if you have increased productivity, you can't sell it. We need to find a way to make sure that we sell almost everything we sell, we grow, or at least a high percentage of it. We talked about 45% loss of tomatoes in Nigeria. So it will be so sad that if you put so much effort and so much technology and farming practice and in inputs into your business, you can't sell it. So, and that's where market alignment comes in. We start thinking, when we are growing, we're not just growing for growing's sake. We are not just growing because we believe people will eat. We are growing because there's a gap, there's an opportunity. And that's very important. We see, so when they say Nigeria produces 1.8, we can do 2.3. What is that 500.5 million tons of tomato? Where is it supposed to be consumed? But at the same time, some of the farmers are already growing and are losing maybe 50% of their produce. They are wondering, where is this excess demand? Where is it coming from? And that is where, for you as a farmer, you need to be able to identify that, not just look at aggregate figures, but look beyond the aggregate figures and start asking yourself questions like, what do I want to grow? Those are the questions that you're going to look at. What do I want to grow as a farmer? If you identify that, you want to know what quantity of the product do you want to grow? Because you want to see, can I meet the demand in the market? Or sometimes there's a demand, but even the produce you're growing, if it's too little, you can't even meet the demand of the let's say there's a processor, for instance, it needs a large quantity, and you feel, oh, there's a demand in the market, and you are producing. But if you can't produce enough, or there are not people that can produce enough to meet demand, that demand is there, but cannot be met because there's not enough production to meet that demand. So you have to think beyond just aggregate figures, but break them down. Then another thing is this: you want to start thinking about, when is this production? When is this demand needed? So sometimes when you look at it, for instance, let me use tomato, which is a very popular one. Almost everybody grows tomatoes in a place like Kano, for instance, and Kaduna in about October, November, December. And by January, February, there's a glut. It happens every year. And you can see, and all those losses that you're talking about usually happens around that period when it comes to tomatoes. But as we move on to about May, June, July, there's scarcity. Now it becomes a problem. You see price of tomato, the man from, what's it called, from Malta is there. Maybe you can tell me if I'm telling, prices can move from about baskets of 2,000 to about 25, even 40,000 sometimes. For you as a farmer, you need to start thinking, not just thinking, taking the lazy or the easy approach. How do I grow during those periods that is very difficult to grow and make a lot of money? So you start thinking, when is that opportunity? When is that gap? Where is that gap? Sorry, what time of the year, which is when is that gap? Another question you need to ask yourself is where. Sometimes when you look at aggregate thing, when is it needed? Is it in Lagos? Is it in Enugu? Is it in Kano? Is it in Borno? When they tell you there's an aggregate need, you might be in your community and there's a glut already. But if you move further down, you might see an opportunity. Of course, logistics problems coming into that. So you have to think about that. Where is that? Another thing is this: you need to think to who. You need to think, who am I selling to? Who is the customer? Sometimes it's easy to identify the customer, like maybe a Dangote if you're supplying for processing, or Ace Food if you're supplying for processing. But there's sometimes is it mile 12 customers? Is it this particular kind of customers that you need? So you need to identify those particular customers. And finally, you want to know what is the quality. For instance, somebody wants to grow for production and for processing. There are bricks level that are required to do that. You don't just go for growing sake. You want to grow pepper. What is the SH unit of that pepper? How hot is it? Do you want it does the market want it very hot or not so hot? Those are the dynamics. But by the time you think about that as a grower, then you're able to align your products, waiting for government and all this investment into what's it called, as nice as they are, and I think they have long-term solution into storage is going to help. But sincerely, you have to take your destiny into your own hand and say, how do I plan to think as an entrepreneur? See gaps, not just growing for growing because people want to eat, but how do I grow? People will eat and can pay me a fair price. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dokun, for that wonderful presentation. made us to understand the dynamics of production. We need to be strategic. We need to plan properly, plan well when we want to produce. You said something that is striking, that while we are planning to increase our productivity, we should also be mindful of the market we are supplying to. And you always said the reality of the effects and the impacts of COVID-19, that more urban dwellers are thinking and planning on how to go back to the rural, that after all we must eat, while the rural dweller are already thinking, struggling with the challenges. To take us to the next session, it is person that is household name in the agricultural sector. When you mention the name from Farm Crowdy, is no, they are not new in the sector. And not only that, I think what is striking now is based on what Mr. Dokun said, that you see this time some people have been calling him, they want to go into this, they want to go into that. And Farm Crowdy is known for grain, but presently they are into horticulture. And I'm sure they are going to tell us to make the whole house know the new shift in vegetable supply chain. So please join me to welcome Mr. Kenneth Obiajulu, the Managing Director of Farm Crowd. Please, Mr. Kenneth, you have the floor.
All right, good morning, everybody. What I will just try to do is let me also share my screen. I'll just speak to one or two areas. Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Kenneth Obiajulu, Managing Director of Farm Crowding. It's exciting to be here to listen to what my colleagues are saying. I mean, I've known Richard for a while now. I mean, from the development space. I used to be with TechnoServe on a couple of projects funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Rockefeller on food loss and waste, and the World Bank on a couple of agricultural productivity projects. So from a development end, we've seen that all of these recommendations make a lot of sense. Lots of finance has gone into the development of these programs and policy advocacy platforms. But I'll speak to four major areas, and then I'll jump right into the screen that you're seeing about what we see and how we have positioned the business, farm crowding. There are four major challenges that we're seeing. First are issues around productivity, low productivity of smallholder farmers. Second, post-harvest losses were very, very high, like everyone has said here. Third is access to finance was almost non-existent because the farmers were not even part of the financial framework of the financial institutions. And then the fourth, even when the farmers happen to go through all of these three challenges, the fourth was they will have to go through multiple layers of intermediaries to be able to sell what they have toiled all year round for, right? So the question was, what is that intervention that you would put on the table that will be able to have a significant impact across the reasonable part of these challenges? And for Farm Crowd, it was access to finance. So in 2016, the business started as Nigeria's first digital agricultural platform that connects individuals like myself and yourself to retail farming opportunities, agricultural opportunities, where we can support smallholder farmers by providing them with superior inputs, seeds, fertilizers, crop protection products, and then train the farmers on good agronomic practices that has the capacity to increase productivity and reduce post-harvest losses in some cases. And when they are done, we're able to connect them to superior markets. So over the course of over 3 years and some few months, through our platform, we've been able to raise in excess of $22 million to be able to fund agriculture across various value chains, horticulture inclusive, right? But beyond that, we've been able to work with over 35,000 farmers as we speak. We've been able to connect farmers that even we don't produce with, we've been able to connect them to markets. You know, but in doing that, we also realized quickly that there was also a gap, right? And the gap was, even with the farmers that were not able to produce with either because they don't meet with our KYC requirements, the funding is not available, they still had the produce and they wanted to connect it to the superior markets that we had, right? And last year we started looking at how can we build a solution, a business that goes beyond crowdfunding. How do we build a business that either we produce or we don't, we're able to connect the farmers to major markets? And we came up with two initiatives, one from the production side and the other from the market side. Because in raising funds from individuals, we have about 100,000 unique sets of individuals that can commit to funding through the platform, right? So it means that if 100,000 people can commit to funding, then you have access to 100,000 customers that also consume. So the question is, how do they consume? How do they get what they have? You know, and how can you connect all of those dots together? From the production end, you have farmers that would have to travel for kilometers to be able to get to a nearby market on the market day, especially in the north, right? And even when they do that, they don't get to sell everything that they come to the market with. And if for any reason that they don't sell everything, they need to incur the cost of taking all that stuff back to their houses, right? And then wait for the next market day to come again. So that's a major issue. So basically what we did, and which is this screen I'm sharing with you here, is we built two solutions. The first solution is called the GrainPoint solution. And basically GrainPoint is an aggregation center that is closest to where smallholder farmers are. And today we have it's tech enabled where a farmer can walk into a GrainPoint center and typically go through the process of profiling the farmer. We get fingerprints, facials. We integrated with a commercial bank. We have the minimum KYC requirements that captures the data of the farmer, immediately generates a mobile account for the farmers. We take the produce that they have, check for all the quality requirements, and immediately we tick all the boxes. The farmer is paid immediately through his mobile account. And then that transaction is completed. We started it with major grains because a lot of the major processors, the brewing companies, the feed millers, were looking for how to source closer to where the farmers are, right? As against working through several layers of intermediaries. So it worked for the grains space. But basically when we saw that the COVID situation had happened, so it's tech enabled where the processors can see that there is 10 metric tons of maize here, there's 20 metric tons of sorghum here and all of that, right? And at the moment we have about 101 of such aggregation centers littered around with a capacity to be able to take 30 metric tons each, right? So that was from the production side. How can we show the markets, either consumer market or industrial market, that these things exist, right? And so that was how we're able to build GrainPoint, where we're able to work directly with farmers that even if we don't produce with them, they have a capacity to get to better markets that they can sell their produce to. On the market side, we realized during prior to COVID period that we needed to build a solution that had the capacity to be able to aggregate demand from individuals. And like I said, with over 100,000 individuals that could fund opportunities on our platform, that was also a unique opportunity to explore that possibility of also connecting them to smallholder farmers directly where they required fresh produce, right? And so we built a system called Farm Crowded Foods and Meat Hub. Ironically, or well, better put, this solution was built and perfected towards the COVID period. And so when there was a lockdown, the first thing that we asked ourselves was, how do we actually explore these solutions? People couldn't walk, people couldn't go anywhere. Farmers didn't have access to be able to go to those weekly markets that they used to, right? Individuals couldn't go to markets because they had to stay home to be able to flatten the curve. I remember we were having good discussions with Lagos State on how to support with their market structure initiatives. And we said, look, why don't you build the last market as a digital market where people don't need to leave their homes, but they can use the platform to be able to order stuff that they would require and it will be delivered to them. And that was where the Farm Crowded Foods and Meat Hub structure came up from, right? Where we're able to tell farmers that were within our catchment areas. We got a license to be able to move stuff around. We're able to tell farmers within our catchment areas, if you're able to bring your tomatoes to our aggregation centers, we will be able to take it off you. If you're able to bring your yams to the aggregation centers, we will be able to take it off you. And then from the market side, we're able to now start pushing out aggressively, to individuals like myself and yourself in Lagos that required yams, required tomatoes, required meat, required all sorts of things to stay alive. And we were able to, in that space, we were able to complete about 2,084 unique transactions in excess of 100 million naira, right? So it's been a big and huge market, right? And so for us, it's been about how can we, beyond looking at policies, beyond looking at how the systems can work from a policy side and a development side. From a private sector side, we've been able to see that if you're able to position yourself from both the production side and also from the market side, how you're able to create that connection between those two sides, you will be able to get the benefits that accrue. So basically, that's like in a nutshell what we have done. Farm Cardo when we started, right? Farm Cardo what we are now, the technologies that we've been able to leverage on, to be able to connect markets. And it's even better for us because we've also seen that there is now a new need for us to look at the global market as a market, as against looking at Nigeria as just a market. We've seen lots of international buyers as a result of the pandemic starting in China. China happens to be one of the biggest suppliers of a lot of things, China and India. Lots of the markets in Europe are no longer looking at those locations for peculiar reasons, right? They're beginning to look at African countries that have the capacity and structure to be able to export. And I can tell you in free terms, during this pandemic season alone, we have moved in excess of 10 containers worth of agricultural produce to the Middle East and to Europe, right? Because there is a demand for our produce. There is a demand for our spices. There's a demand for a couple of all these things. But like Richard also said, it's a thing of standardization. It's a thing around structure. Our markets are very much unstructured. And for any international business to be able to work with you, they require at least the barest minimum of structure, a semblance of structure that gives them a bit of comfort to be able to work with you. And for us, it's how can we work with development partners, how can we work with even more smallholder farmers to be able to build a system that allows us to be able to give value across the entire value chain for all the participants and stakeholders. So that's from me. And if there are any questions, we can delve into that much later. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kenneth. That's a very interesting perspective.
All right, so I introduce the next speaker. The next speaker is actually going to take us through the market requirements for smallholder farmers to access processor. He is an experienced person in the processing industry. Not only that, he's a researcher, and he has a very unique product. And I'm not going to unpack the products. I want you to hear directly from him. He is the CEO, Easy Source Nigeria Limited, and it's no any other person than Dr. Jide Adedeji.
Thank you very much, Mr. Akiwerunu. Yes, our company is Easy Sources Nigeria Limited. And I think I should give a brief background on myself so that I can then go through the process. I have very few slides. I would like that we have discussions. Can you hear me? Can you see the pictures and everything?
Loud and clear, sir.
Loud and clear.
Right.
Very good, very good. So first of all, Seed for Change and two-scale program. Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate being a part of this presentation and seminar or webinar. Everything I've been hearing for me is very interesting. I enjoy every bit of it. As a background, I did a lot of agriculture in school and food technology, master's, PhD, and a lot of years in production, mostly in value addition, conversion of agricultural raw material to value-added products. And all of what I've been hearing, it sounds to me like what we really need to focus on is how we are going to stop the post-harvest losses, add value, and decrease the amount of losses we are finding in economic value. And when I listened to the presentation by Richard Ogundele, which I saw as a situational analysis of current situation of agribusiness in Nigeria, it really was painful. Because for me, it was like a listing of all of these problems we learned in school as early as 70s. And here we are 50 years ago, we are still discussing this thing. Fortunately, I'm hearing bits and pieces of possible and potential solutions to some of these problems. And I hope that some of what we are doing and some of what we have done may begin to mean the initial stages of solving this problem. Because for me, these are entire security of food in Nigeria is a huge problem. It's one that I've dedicated a lot of years to, and I'm happy to give this presentation. So what we do in Easy Sources is we convert horticultural products, tomatoes, peppers, onions, into a value-added product, which we call urban sauce. So basically, what we are trying to do is to reduce these post-harvest losses, convert all of those ingredients into a valuable product that you can put in the market locally and globally. So that's it. Now, in terms of what I've seen, when you look at the general position of agribusiness, agriculture in Nigeria, based on the analysis we've heard, there's a lot of loss of value in post-harvest losses. So we've tried to do some work. Initially, I want to actually mention that anytime we want to do the conversion of these things to value-added product, to be beneficial if whoever is trying to do that consult and talk with us. Because there is a whole vast of expertise and experience in this space that I'm very willing and happy to share, because I find and see that this is going to be the solution for us as a people in the sector to solve our food security problem. And I want to contribute and participate in every and any way I can into these solutions, because I find that as part of it is I also go out and lecture in University of Ibadan, Yaba Tech. I also lecture at the food, at the Lagos Business School, such that we begin to transmit some of this expertise, experience, knowledge, and know-how to younger people, so that we begin to bring solutions to all of these things. So this is today market requirement for smallholder farmers to access processors, right? So I have just 4 slides. And what I will do, is not moving. Oh, okay. So I will give you an introduction of Easy Sources. I'm trying to see where to put this screen. Easy Sources is an indigenous company. We are manufacturers of tomato-based sauces. We have a state-of-the-art factory, actually, in Ibejuleki in Lagos here. Our products are sold in supermarkets, neighborhood stores, and the open market. And what is essential also, we have certifications with NAFDAC, we have the CGMP, which basically allows your product to be exported. With NAFDAC approval and certification, we have FDA facility approval for the factory. And we are also in the process of getting the food safety system certification, ISO 22000 certification. This also includes what is called GFSI, that is the Global Food Safety Initiative. Some of what I'm saying, people may need to ask questions and things like that. That is okay, and I'll be willing to and ready to answer those questions. Now, the raw materials that we use and need are tomato, Scotch bonnet, that we know as rojo, the red bell peppers, tartare, and onions. We use these 4 ingredients. Somebody was talking about volume of smallholder, the volumes and capacities of smallholder farmers earlier. The kind of things you find with smallholder farmers, their ability to produce, there's a need for aggregators that will bring these products to us. And So this is the product we make, just to give a, I don't know, this thing is very good. Let me do this. Okay, so this is our product. And I hope everybody can see the screen.
Yes, sir, it's on. You can see it, sir.
Fantastic. So the product is of a source. What you are looking at the screen is the smallest size product we have is the 250 gram sample. And we have basically 6 SKUs. There is this 250 gram, there is the 500 gram, and the 1 kilogram mild and hot sauces. All of them are either mild or hot. So what you are seeing that is in the tan color is the mild product, while the bright red is in the hot, that is that small pepper in it. So that's it. Now, what is critical and what speaks to some of the problems we have been talking and we know about are the benefits of this product. This product does not need any refrigeration. You don't need to freeze it. There are 0 added chemicals to it. And the product has a 12-month shelf life. So it takes care of all and most of these problems we are talking, especially in the horticultural area, where the products are very easily perishable. I listened to the gentleman that spoke from the mile 12 market, talking about 2 days to 10 days of moving agricultural raw materials from the north to the south. There's no way you're going to bring those things in and they will not be completely destroyed for that length of time. Anyway, so that's the product we have. And so what we have now, what is actually the market requirement for the processing. Now, what is essential is the product must and should be of good product quality. Red color is critical and important to us because we are making a sauce. And the tomato needs to have firm texture with no blemish. And what we've also seen that this firm texture, this color, and either the blemish, the ability to survive transportation and post-harvest loss is dependent on the product variety and the particular quality of the seed that was employed in production or the agricultural practice in the first place. So it is important that people understand that the right seed is going to give you improved products as well as products that have better shelf life. Now, the other thing is the bricks. We expect that the product has a bricks of not less than 10. For us, because we are doing a product that actually mimics what people do in their kitchens, we basically can use any variety of tomato that you bring. The only thing is it has to arrive at the factory in a good quality and without blemish or spoilage, and it should not carry any of these grubs and insects that you might find on the tomato. The quality should be consistent. That is, if you bring us a trailer load, a 30-ton truck load today, we expect that the next week or 2 weeks that to bring another, it must be the same. It should be the same quality. And it's good seeds and varieties that are going to deliver this quality for you. Then volume availability. We find that it's really difficult for individual farmers to supply a need for what is necessary. And I think I should talk briefly about what we go through in terms of procurement of our raw materials. Most of our raw materials is procured from the north. We are working very closely with some groups, farmer groups and things that are now beginning to produce in the south and the southwest, in Ogun, Oyo, Ondo, even some in Lagos State that we are beginning to look for, because the closer to us that the raw materials are, the better for everybody, especially in the cost of shipment. So it's important that the volume is available. It's also important that some kind of aggregation is done. So when we talk about requirement for processing, we are willing to work directly with farmers, especially with farmer groups if they are aggregating their products. And we are also open to work with farmers work with marketers, because marketers already understand aggregation and they know how to bring the product. And also one thing that is very desirable that is not compulsory is that the products will deliver directly to the factory. That is very highly desirable. I show some pictures. I think I showed the picture of a factory. Here is the factory. And I will call it medium-sized. We have the capacity to process about 9,000 tons of produce. And from here, if you look at the volume requirement, which is weekly, we need something close to 25 metric tons of tomato, which is about 500 baskets a week, and about 10 tons of Scotch bonnet, which is about 175 big bags of the Roto, and again 175 bags also of the red bell pepper, which comes to about 7 metric tons. We need about 4 metric tons of onion. So this is like our weekly requirement. And in terms of processing requirement, that is basically it. What we are also encouraging is that more farmers begin to grow products in area that is close to our factory. As I mentioned, the factory is here in Lagos. There are many reasons for it. Some people like to talk about the fact that all factories must be situated in the farm areas. That is true. It's not true in all cases. It depends on what you are processing and what you are producing. So I'm going to stop at this point. That is the presentation and slides that I have. I expect that there will be questions, but which we'll be happy to take. Let me talk briefly also. We have, as a company, we have about 4 graduates in our production. We have about 22 staff. We use about 350 casual labor, mostly ladies. If you look at peppers and tomatoes and these materials that we use, there is a need for somebody to take out all of the vegetative parts of the tomato, the tops and the of the tomato, skin the onions and cut the onions ready for the equipment. So what happens is there's a shed here that you are looking at. Some of the people that do the work in the factory, they get the raw materials ready, they put them in these green crates that you look at, and it's these crates that we move into the factory and we begin the production. Because of the nature of the products and the production that we do, we work 24 hours non-stop for 6 straight days. From mostly Monday to Saturday, we do a cleanup. Saturday nights, Friday, Monday, we start production. So that's basically this process and the cycle of our production. So that's basically it. But when you look at the situational issues in Nigeria in agribusiness, we hope and we think that we should find ways to expand this kind of processing. And most, I'm not going to say all, most of the problems we're having in this space will begin to go away. One of the biggest problems I have found in this space and this, in the agribusiness space in Nigeria is it is the most poorly funded sector of the economy. And unfortunately, it is the sector of the economy that has the most potential to turn around the economic situation of this country. And we must recognize it. The earlier the policymakers and people in government and people, and even practitioners such as all of us, people that are in this space, we get serious with this space, because this is what is going to turn the economy, and this is what is going to diversify the economy. And more of these processing factories and facilities that we see, the better it's going to be for all of us. That's the presentation I have. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Adedeji. That's a wonderful presentation and a beautiful product. We've got a lot of questions that have been coming in, but I think we will start with one of the first ones. I think this is aimed at you, Mr. Richard. What is the current ECOWAS protocol on movement of fresh produce across member countries, especially as it affects horticultural products? And is there any current way of getting GAP certifications in the country?
At the moment, the ECOWAS trade liberalization scheme allows for that free movement of goods and services within the region. Now, for vegetables and fruits, the global gap standard is the basic standard applicable to most of the countries within the ECOWAS region. Ghana is already operating. Benin Republic has it. Togo has it, even up to Senegal, Gambia, and Ivory Coast. Unfortunately, Nigeria is still far behind concerning this, but at the moment, we have some GAP certified farms which are operating from Cross River, from Edo, and even some within the southwestern states in the country. So it's a function of getting more farmers to embrace the certification approach. It's expensive, it's quite time consuming, but it's still achievable. To get GAP certified, I think the two-scale project supports farmers to achieve that. And some individuals who are into this business have gone ahead to use their own funds with other partners to achieve this. So it's a function of having our own local food safety and quality standards. At the moment, yes, we have one drafted. It was concluded in Kaduna State, but it hasn't been finalized for everyone to use it. Agri Ministry at the federal level has that document, but implementation is still yet to happen. That's the current situation concerning that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Richard, for that. There's another question here for you, that what are the steps towards policy shaping and advocacy?
Okay, concerning policy, a lot has been done. A lot is still ongoing. While the DFID project was on, they laid that foundation for the Lagos State government to look into setting the market requirements to trade in fruits and vegetables in Lagos. The reason for adopting that approach is because Lagos is the biggest market. And if Lagos should put standards in place for fruits and vegetable dealers to operate in their space, it's going to affect 23 states in the country. That will also make all the states that produce fruits and vegetables to domesticate these policies such that the farmers are going to adopt new innovations such as adopting good handling practices, use of plastic crates, tomato color culture at the primary production level. Then aggregation centers will come into existence. Jobs will be created at that level. Women can come in and ultimately better quality products reach the market. Right now, TechnoServe is trying to take up that task of following up with Lagos State to ensure that that policy in question comes into effect. It takes a lot of back and forth between the legislative arm of the government, governor's office, to get to that point where the law is at least enacted. The last Ambode's government was about doing that before this new one came. So we're still there, but we're not yet there. We're on our way, but we're not yet there. A lot more advocacy needs to be done. If you see my slide, the icon for advocacy was deliberately made large to show that we need a lot more of that to happen. Innovations exist, solutions exist, but we need the laws to drive and support their uptake.
Yeah, I got that. I got that. I hope the rest of the participants had that. Thank you so much, Mr. Richard. I would really like to follow up and see what has been done in that area. I think I have another question here, and this is going to you, Mr. Dokun. It says that it seems a lot of our farmers are not ready to adopt new quality seeds despite its advantages. And what can be done, or what in your idea can be done to close that gap, especially in northern Nigeria, to increase the engagement with farmers using quality seeds?
Oh, okay. Thanks, Kabir, for the question. I think basically it's what Seed for Change is trying to do. Basically, it's a platform like that. I think the seed companies generally are doing their job, trying to demonstrate in trials and demonstrations to show the potentials of these varieties compared to the OPVs. And a platform like Seed for Change actually, creates something that is even bigger, because many of the seed companies come together to show the power and the viability of the seeds and the way they can actually turn things around for the farmers. I think so. The seed companies are doing that in terms of trials and demonstration and using Seed for Change. But I think even for the farmers themselves, they need to start thinking beyond. You start thinking for yourself as an entrepreneur. You are the one that has invested into this. This is a commercial enterprise in which you have invested into to make money. One of the things you can do is buy those seeds even in small quantities. Even if nobody's demonstrating for you, I think it's fantastic to demonstrate, and I think the seed companies are doing that. Seed for Change is doing that. 2Scale is doing a lot of those things. But for you as a farmer, you want to try these things. They are making these claims. Okay, let me buy this quantity. Let me buy 1,000. Let me buy 100, and compare the results. You don't have to even wait. That's what I'm looking for. And I say when I'm talking, I don't talk just as a distributor. I talk as a farmer. You don't leave your destiny to people's hands. The reality is that things are moving. You need to be able to take that. Okay, this is. Can I get sample seed? If you can get, let me buy 100. Let me buy 200. Let me buy 500. Let me buy 1,000, and compare the results to what I've been doing. And so that's what I would advise farmers. But the distribution, I think the seed companies are doing their own bits, trials there and there. Seed for Change is doing that. You know that. So that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Dokun. I mean, just to add to that, I will say, as farmers, it might not be easy to do trials individually, but it might be a good idea for farmer groups and associations to also have their own unified trial plots where they come together to try varieties that might work for them, and a demonstration plots to demonstrate within themselves what varieties they want to buy. I think when you pull your resources together, it might make it easier for the farmers to know how to deal with the seed companies when they bring inputs for you to purchase. I also have some questions here. I think I will address this question to Mr. Kenneth. I'm curious as to how insurance plays out for each of these organizations in their working experience. I think that might be something you might be able to share a bit of knowledge and perspective on.
Okay, so thanks a lot for the question. So I mean, regarding insurance, it plays a crucial role because everything agricultural, everything in life has a risk component to it, right? So basically, as much as possible as a business, as a responsible business, especially when you raise funds from individuals and the funds raised are on the backbone of trust, there is that responsibility, that comes with ensuring that you de-risk all the various points. So insurance plays a crucial role. From a crop side, all farmers that we work with, we try to make available crop insurance policies to be able to mitigate against risks such as flooding and a couple of things like that. We have been able to, we've engaged in a couple of projects where such incidents have happened, and we're very, very happy that our insurance partners happen to be responsible partners and we were indemnified. So yes, insurance plays a crucial role for crop, but most importantly, there are other areas where you have exposure, right, in the value chain as well. What happens from the farm gate to your aggregation center or storage capacity within the community? If something happens in transit, do you have a goods in transit insurance that covers that component? Secondly, when it gets to your warehouse, right? When you either you're processing, primary processing, or whatever it is you're doing at your warehouse, do you have an insurance component that covers the entire building and everything that is in it as well, right? So an insurance company plays, an insurance policy plays a crucial role in that as well. And then when you're moving from the northern part of Nigeria down to the southern part of Nigeria, you also need to make provisions for a goods in transit insurance policy that helps to mitigate against the risk of transit incidences and all of that. So generally, insurance companies play a crucial role, but more can be done because beyond that, there is also a need for us to be able to spread the gospel of microinsurance to for small-scale farmers, smallholder farmers. Because it's one thing for the farmers for you to have the crops insured. It's another thing for the farmers to fall sick. As a result of the ailment, they're not able to go to the farms. If they're not able to go to the farms, and then either they don't carry out the weeding activities properly or they don't do it in time, weed alone has the capacity to drop yield by between 2 to 40%, depending on the crops in question here, right? So it's one thing for you to insure the crops, it's another thing for you to ensure that the farmer is exposed to crop insurance, microinsurance policies that is able to protect or make provisions for hospicash, able to make provisions for life insurance, and is able to make provisions for property insurance as well. So in all of these three counts, we work with a partner that has been able to cover life, hospital, property, and then also has a crop insurance component to it. So I think insurance plays a very crucial role in all of these activities. Yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot, Kenneth. There's still one more question for you. You have a slew of them coming in. So the other question he says is, do you have aggregation points in Ogun and Lagos states? And most importantly, what's the minimum capacity for farmers for them to qualify to register with you?
Okay, so yes, we have aggregation centers in Ogun. I think we have about 12 or so. We have 8 in Ogun State. Then in Oyo State, we have 31. In Lagos, we have 2 sorting facilities. One of it is completely refrigerated, so we can take vegetables in those facilities there. The other is it's steady, just an aggregation center with a capacity to do about, I think, 400 metric tons of produce in. Right. So yes, we have in Lagos, and then we also have in Ogun State as well. The requirements for our farmers to be able to get on board this, it's very simple. We can reach out with information regarding our partners in the various states. What the farmers need to simply do is walk up there. We want to be able to gather as much data as possible. Where is the farmer? Where's their farms? Basic demographic information. We have biometric scans, facials, and all of that. And then we know what crops do they have for the markets. And if there are crops that we don't handle, then our job is to be able to begin to stimulate demand for such crops, right? And then once we're able to perfect that system, we onboard the farmers, we receive from them, we pay them upfront, and then we handle the distribution from there.
All right, thank you so much. The next question is actually going to Dr. DG. There are actually 2 questions for you, sir. The first question is, one of the participants would like to know if your product is just stew that we just need cooking, an addition of beef and fish and food is ready, or is tomato paste, rodo paste, and other paste, onion paste, all the paste. And the second question is, a participant would like to know, you made mention of the location of your factory. So the participant would like to know if you have a expansion plan to actually locate maybe a new factory in the northern part of Nigeria where the horticultural products are mostly produced. Thank you.
Okay. Yes. Is it the Obe sauce, right? It's a cooking sauce. So what you have is, it's a sauce for you to finish up whatever food you want to make. You want to make a stew, you want to make jollof rice, casseroles, pasta sauce, all those things. So tomato, peppers, onions are formulated, blended, cooked, and put in that bag. And well, I call it bag pouch, really. It's a laminated, pouch that is able to give it that shelf life of 12 months. So really, what has happened is it allows you to reduce the time you spend in the kitchen. That's what it is. As it is, you should not consume it. You can, but what you really need to do is, for example, we know that people in the East don't like a lot of pepper, so we have a mild and we have a hot. That is the one that has a lot of pepper. So the mild will go a lot for the East. Now, in Southwest, the people in Southwest like a lot of pepper. So they can even add more because we have a product that is mild and hot. So if you need a hot product, whatever it is you want to cook, you want to make jollof rice and things, you can add more pepper. You want to make a sauce, you can add more pepper even with using a sauce. Now, if you go to the north, where they're interested in using garlic and ginger in their sauces, the stew is already, halfway the sauce is ready, you put all these other things. So what it does is it captures all of the areas within in the country where the cultural preferences are slightly different. So you can use it in all those spaces. And then on the issue of location, it is true. However, it's not necessarily true in all cases that whatever agricultural product you are processing, it must be right in the center of whatever area you have the raw materials. In most cases, it is true. For example, we did some work in formerly called in Teragro, where you are processing oranges or citrus. You know that the orange, what you really want is the juice. It's about 50% juice. So it will make no sense for you to move oranges from Benue or anywhere other place where it's bulky, and you bring it to Lagos just to come and get half of it, in which case you have transported 50% of material that you are not going to use. In our case, the product we are making, we use 100% whatever it is we are shipping from any farm or any farmer. However, it is still preferable, as you have said and suggested, that your raw materials should come from wherever or close to where it is. But what we are very happy to see is that a lot more farms are setting up now in the south, southwest, southeast, even in the middle belt. Because usually in the past, when we bought our products from the north, Jigawa, Kano, Kaduna, Zaria, all these places, it takes about 2 days to get the product. Now, and what it means is that most of the tomato business on purpose that we're doing, you have to pay ahead of time. So that means you've paid, and then the product is on its way. It takes 2 days, and you're probably ready to you have a need for it already in the factory. So that was creating problems. Now that we have customers that are in Ogun State or your state and middle belt areas, you can negotiate a deal in the morning today, the next day you have the product. In certain instances, you have the product the same day. So things are improving in that perspective. Now, in terms of expansion, we are actually very ready for that and happy to do that, but it's not going to be right away because we want to kind of build the systems properly, and then we do the expansion as you are suggesting. Yes.
Yes, so Mr. Mohammed, we have a question from a participant, I'm presuming is a farmer, and the question is there are two questions actually. One is, how does a farmer access and able to sell in Mile 12 market? It seems to be shrouded in secrecy. And the second question is, what is the management doing in terms of the sanitation and environmental standards of the market in terms of produce coming in?
Let me start by the first question, which is the access of the market. It's a very simple thing to do now. We share our email address online, and then we have the website where people can just send a request, and we get back to them with the procedure for registration into the market. I cannot record the numbers of people, farmers from the north that call me with my phone numbers, and then just ask them to bring their photos, and when they came, we register them to the sections of their photos.
I think the next question goes to Mr. Richard Ogundele, and this person is interested to know that having established the challenges such as in the packaging, cold chain, and post-harvest losses in Nigeria, all these have to do with the agro-logistics. Please, is there any upcoming scheme or training to encourage capacity building for the upcoming transport and logistics professionals in Nigeria to provide solutions to some of these issues? Mr. Richard, if you are there, please.
Yes, I can hear you. Thank you very much. For us in GMSF, we have those training templates, we have those business models where we can train intending business operators who would like to go into agro-logistics, be it cold chain, plastic rental business, be it long distance haulage of fresh produce from point A to point B, operating aggregation centers. These are models that we have piggybacked on from former DFID project and developed further. And as we speak, we are in discussion.
Hello, Mr. Richard, are you still there? I think Mr. Richard is having issue with the network.
Seems to have some challenges.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. Um,
Okay, I think we'll wait for his signal or network to get better so that he can come back up. We Before he comes back on, I think we have one last question from that was asking, there are numerous problems in the Nigerian agricultural industry, and they're wondering if there's a way where to scale an S4C can organize solutions that goes above organically meeting face-to-face and one-on-one, and using more of digital agricultural solutions. I think I will let Emmanuel answer that, but I can say that we're already doing that even by this approach. So Emmanuel, maybe you can shed some light before I say anything else again.
yeah, thank you, Kabir. Just like you have said, you know, the advent of COVID-19 pandemic has actually challenged every organization and program to see how they can restructure and plan properly to fit into the present situation. That is what we are presently doing as well in two scale. As a matter of fact, some of our programs, some of our meetings, because of the restriction, has been online and has been in form of digitalization. So we're already doing that, and I'm pleased to even inform you in one of our partnership in Sokoto Onion Partnership. We have successfully even conducted online meeting with even our grassroots actors on the field. So it's something that we must do, the reality of COVID-19, and it is something everybody must even embrace. Thank you, Captain.
Okay, that's great. And on our own part as Seeds for Change, we currently have training programs that we've been running even before COVID-19 happened. So we have a knowledge-to-knowledge transfer program where we're training extension agents. We're doing that with Wageningen University from the Netherlands. And we've been doing that as a blended learning online. So we've been training about 25 extension agents that will make an impact, that will be able to train other trainers in the horticultural field. So we have been able to do that where we are engaging with a lot of the higher level extension agents in the sector. We've currently adopted doing a lot of our meetings online. So we have the seed platform meetings online. We have a series of trainings and crop guides and manuals we are developing and printing that we can share via social media groups, via the radio. And a lot of our partner companies on the Seed for Change program are already doing that. East West has a very vibrant radio program which they do consistently via the AM band, and it's broadcast across the northern part of the country. Rise One via Seedfort are very active on the social media. They have training master classes that they offer to growers, and so I think a lot is being done using digital technology to engage the farmers both from the bottom and the top of the pyramid of the farming value chain. We are looking for more solutions and we're open for more ideas and see how we can deepen the engagement with farmers on our own end. Okay, thank you so much for all of our panelists. Thank you to our participants. We've been really grateful for the time, for the perspective, the insights. A lot of knowledge has been shared. As we've said, horticultural sector is on the up in the country, and we believe there's going to be bigger production in the horticultural sector. It's going to get better with time as we keep bringing the best of our efforts, the best of our minds and ideas, and bringing all the stakeholders to the table. For those of us from the Netherlands African Business Council that implemented the Seed for Change program, we're really happy to engage with everyone, and we will keep doing our best in the sector. And thanks a lot to our partner from 2Scale, Emmanuel. We've been very helpful for the support and the great job we've done. And hopefully we can keep engaging with everyone here. Thanks so much for your time, and have a great day.